Have you ever wondered what it would be like if someone made incredibly bland, hyper-realistic advertisements of some of your favorite video and tabletop games? Well, wonder no more, because Amazon's Secret Level is here. If you don't know, Secret Level is an animated anthology series from the creator of Love, Death, and Robots. I've never seen that show, but this one sucks. I'm going to give a quick non-spoiler rundown of why this show fails really quick before going into my spoiler-filled rankings. If you just want to see the rankings, skip here. Obviously, since it's an anthology, some of the issues are on a per-episode basis, but there are a lot of through lines that affect every episode. The biggest problem with the series is that the episodes are too short. They vary wildly in length, with the shortest being 5 minutes and the longest being 18 minutes or so. Most of them are in the 8 to 10 minute range though. The episodes really need to be 15 minutes minimum, with some higher than that. Because of the short lengths, a lot of the episodes end abruptly right before the climax of the story. Also partially because of the length of the episodes and partially because of bad writing. Nearly all the episodes have razor thin stories that are incredibly straightforward, uninteresting, and basic without having any plot twists or turns. The moment you find out the concept for the episode, you know exactly how everything will turn out. The show largely feels like you are watching boring trailers for games you are not interested in. Also, several of the episodes have extremely distracting celebrity voices and sometimes likenesses that are bad, and I hate them, but I guess they do accurately capture the current state of video games. The last big through-line issue is the art. The majority of the episodes have an extremely ugly photorealistic art style. These episodes usually have an incredibly ugly drab color palette where everything is super dull and flat looking and super gross looking yellow lighting regardless of the context of the scene. They use this art style for games that don't even have a super realistic or gritty aesthetic, and some of the stories tonally would have benefited from more of a stylistic, colorful look. For example, this is what the game The Outer Worlds looks like versus the Secret Level episode. I hate this ugly, hyper-realistic style. I'm sure it could work if it was executed better, but here it's not, and it doesn't fit with the contents a lot of the episodes, tonally or style-wise. I would not recommend Secret Level. There are only a few episodes even worth watching, which I'll get into in my ranking, and a lot of the best episodes in this show are still super mediocre. Anyway, that's my mini review as to why the show doesn't work. Now on to the episode ranking. I will rank them worst to best based on my opinion, and I will spoil what little plot there is in most of these. Coming in last, I have PlayStation's episode entitled Playtime Fulfillment. I honestly don't even think this should qualify as an episode as a TV show, because it's literally just an advertisement for PlayStation. Playtime Fulfillment follows a bicycle delivery woman who encounters a marketable creature that allows her to see PlayStation characters as she rides around the city avoiding them while trying to make a delivery, and is harassed by a robot assistant played by Kevin Hart. Also, the lead actress is voiced by Kevin Hart's daughter, so I'm assuming one of them got the other involved in the project. PlayStation has made many advertisements where their characters cross over before, and this is just one of them. It's not entertaining, and after watching it, you feel like a fool for wasting your time willingly watching an advertisement. At 14 out of 15, we have New World Once and Future King. This is one of the few episodes focused on comedy, and it's painful. It follows a king from a foreign land voiced by distractingly old and bored-sounding Arnold Schwarzenegger. After shipwrecking on an island where no one can die, and trying and failing to beat the actual king of the island in various games he is terrible at, to earn the right to be king. He also destroys the loyalty of his only loyal subject. This is a funny idea and concept, but fails in a multitude of reasons. One, there is no comedic timing at all. The beats go on way too long after the punchline, and it's the same joke being repeated over and over again. Hurting the bad comedic time is Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance, who I do love, but his performance here is terrible. The character he's playing is 40 years plus younger than him, so how old he sounds is incredibly distracting, and he also sounds super monotone and bored, like he recorded his lines after taking 6 pounds of sleeping pills. It also suffers from the art style not fitting the comedic tone, and while most of the episodes are too short, this one is too long. For some reason, it wants us to have an emotional connection with the characters, and feel sad when they stop being friends and heartfelt when they reunite. They should have cut all of the emotional stuff and had it be pure comedy. Next, at 13 out of 15, we have Mega Man Start, which is a fitting title because it does not have an ending. This episode has the most abrupt ending of them all. Mega Man fights one guy for 5 seconds, suits up, and then it's over. Also, the art style isn't quite hyper-realistic, but it's still weirdly realistic for Mega Man. That's all there is to say. It ends right when you think the climax is coming. At 12 out of 15, we have Crossfire Good Conflict. This did not affect my rating of the episode, but I had no idea what Crossfire even was before watching this. This episode feels like a cinematic trailer for a game you're not interested. I can easily picture a young Bardic watching this on G4 when they're airing E3, bored out of my mind and wondering when they are going to start showing trailers for sci-fi and fantasy games again. This episode follows two teams of mercenaries, both after the same package, with one escorting it and the other trying to steal it. They both insist that they are the good guys throughout the episode. Out of all of the episodes, this is one of the least memorable, and even though I only watched it like 2 days ago, it's already leaving my mind. The two teams of mercenaries boringly shoot at each other in a completely empty city during a hurricane. There's supposed to be some moral complexity going on here, hence why the characters keep saying they're the good guys. There's some intrigue and double crosses, but it's all so boring. While I complained that all the episodes were too short, this one felt like it was 2 hours long when it was 15 minutes. Landing at 11 out of 15, we have Pac-Man Circle. I went in blind to the show, so when I saw the title say there was a Pac-Man episode, I was like, I guess there's gonna be some lighthearted cartoony episodes too. That could be fun. Instead, we have a gritty, edgy Pac-Man reboot. Straight out of an early 2010s webcomic when everyone was obsessed with making edgy versions of things. Also, apparently they're making a game out of this concept that's similar to Hollow Knight. This episode is much more visually interesting than most of the others, but it was impossible to take seriously and felt like a joke because of the Pac-Man connection. And the whole time I was sitting in anticipation for what stupid Pac-Man references they would include. That would completely ruin the tone. Coming in at 10 out of 15, we have Armored Core Asset Management. I don't have much to say about this episode. I found it incredibly distracting that Keanu Reeves was the main character, and I felt like there was lore stuff I was missing by not having played Armored Core, but otherwise it's just Keanu Reeves arguing with some people in a bar, followed by him arguing with Cortana, followed by some okay mech fighting full of constant interior shots of Keanu's ugly yellow lit mech cockpit, while the outside mech shots look like you have your phone's brightness turned down all the way. Overall, this one was also pretty forgettable. At the 9 out of 15 spot, we have Concord, Tale of the Implacable, which is based on the notorious flop Concord that did not even last until the episode aired. That's neither here nor there though. There are plenty of videos complaining about the game. This one's talking about the episode. So how is it? Like most of the episodes of the show, it's okay and pretty forgettable. It starts off pretty strong but gets worse as it goes along. There's some funny gags, one that actually made me laugh out loud, but a lot of the humor comes off as annoying, so do the characters. I wish it was entirely about the rescue heist instead of ending very early on in the episode, since that was the fun part instead of the arguing and double crosses on the ship that come next. At the 8 out of 15 spot, we have Dungeons and Dragons: The Queen's Cradle. Like I keep saying for most of the shorts, it was pretty forgettable, but there were a few things I liked. Also, like a lot of the other shorts, this one's quite ugly and drab. I did really like the Goliath Paladin and thought she was a cool character, but the other members of the party lack a strong personality. I also wish the party wasn't on the defensive for the one fully shown action scene, though there is a sick part where the monk catches the arrow and throws it back, which is right out of the tabletop. The ending is incredibly stupid with how casual they are about facing Tiamat, considering they were just getting their ass beat by a bunch of mid-level monsters. In case you don't play D&D, Tiamat is a literal god, and they do not even seem scared at all about facing her. Realistically, they all died right after the camera cut. 7 out of 15, we have Exodus Odyssey. This is another game I had not heard of, which is apparently an upcoming game from one of the creators of Mass Effect. This is one I liked a lot conceptually, but it just didn't work for me. Sci-fi time dilation stuff is a really cool and interesting concept. I loved it when it was featured in Interstellar and the many Star Trek episodes that it's in. This episode just didn't gel well for me. Narration was really clunky, and I just don't think it was executed super well. I also wonder how Space Travel Society could possibly function with the extreme time dilation. Every time someone travels, an interplanetary trade would be nearly impossible if everything takes years to ship from planet to planet. I think this episode would have been better if instead of the father-daughter concept, it was about a single individual working in space, not aging very much as the world changes around them. Truly a lonely person, completely out of time. Maybe they had left behind someone and they wanted to be the best space captain or whatever, and at the end they go to the grave of the person or people they left behind, now elderly as hundreds of of years have passed on their home planet. It's fun to speculate what we could have gotten, but what we got was just okay in my opinion. Now this may be controversial how low I have this on my list, even though it's pretty high up actually at 6 out of 15. I have the 40k short, And They Shall Know No Fear. I thought this short was extremely okay. I'm a pretty big 40k fan. I have read some of the novels and played the tabletop game. My armies are Tau, Astra Militarum, and Tyranids. Anyway, I've never been super interested in the space marine porn that everyone seems to love, where it's just space marines destroying the opposition with no trouble at all. I do think it can be cool when executed correctly, but there needs to be overwhelming odds to show how good they are. Like them taking an entire base by themselves, while you're seeing hordes of Astra Militarum guys get wiped out, or something similar to that. In this episode, they are stomping normal cultists for most of it. It doesn't come off as oppressive, or even seem that hard. Then they encounter the one-shot monster, which just spooks you so bad you die instantly, and while I do like the effect of their heads exploding, it's just an excuse to talk about how Titus is the coolest, most specialist boy and is completely immune to this guy. This mission doesn't really seem like they needed space marines or it was even that hard. And when they arrive in the cave for the boss fight, there's a stone Lord of Change, and I thought we were gonna get a cool fight against it. Instead, a little one-shot guy falls out. Anyway, I did not like the short very much. Dropping in at 5 out of 15, I have Splunky Tally. I like the art style of this short and thought it was generally pretty charming and fun. I enjoyed the montage of our main character being killed by traps, but disliked the sentimental stuff, which was a little strange and hollow. Like, the story has a moral that only makes sense in a universe where you can die a bunch of times. Okay, out of all the episodes, we are finally the ones I consider actually good and worth seeking out, regardless of if you are interested in a concept or not. While the rest, I think, are bad to okay, and I think are really only worth checking out if you're interested in the concept or franchise. At 4 out of 15, we have Outer Worlds, The Company You Keep. While this episode does suffer from the ugly art style issue, I think it's a genuinely well told and crafted story. Which is funny because I thought the game it's based on, The Outer Worlds, has terrible writing. In this episode, the humor landed and you really feel for the main character who is endlessly hopeful in this terrible universe. The only problem I have with the short, other than the art style, is how predictable it is, and I wish there had been a twist or turn somewhere in there, but otherwise this actually makes me optimistic for The Outer Worlds 2, hoping that it will have writing on the level of this episode. Punching into 3 out of 15, I have Sifu It Takes a Life. Now I'm a little bit biased since I'm already a fan of Sifu, but I really like this short, and if it were longer and a little less anticlimactic, it would probably be my favorite. It's a well choreographed, accurate adaptation of the game that is unfortunately completely missing the climatic boss fight. He goes into the boss room and you never see the actual fight, you only see the aftermath, which was pretty lame, but overall it was an entertaining short. In second place, I have Honor of Kings, The Way of All Things. I had no idea what Honor of Kings was before watching it. Apparently, it's a Chinese MOBA. This episode is incredible. I love a lot of the character designs in this episode, and it's really visually interesting. The whole episode is essentially just watching two people playing a game of Go over the fate of a city, but there are so many visual flourishes to keep your attention. The dialogue is also great, and I love the philosophical discussion of free will, and the ending is brilliant. It's funny, because I've heard a lot of people say how the worst game on the list got adapted into one of the best episodes. And at number 1, the legitimately great short standing on top of a pile of mid is Unreal Tournament Zan. This short is so fucking cool and fun. It's full of clever action scenes. It's tense because you aren't sure if our hero will be able to win, and it's the only episode I think the realistic art style works because of the way the episode is lit and also the gritty tone and vibe of it. The story, while not super complicated, is engaging, and the episode gets you hyped by the end. You should watch it as soon as you can. Anyway, that's Amazon's Secret Level, a majorly mediocre anthology series full of ugly episodes that are way too short, bad writing, that fortunately has some hidden gems that are worth watching. Anyway, have you seen Secret Lair? Do you agree with my rankings? What video games would you like to see adapted next? Let me know in the comments and like and subscribe for whatever. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.